As much of a favorite as the Cavs are to repeat in the East, the Warriors may be even more so in the West thanks to their offseason bonanza. You probably heard of it, the acquisition of Kevin Durant, of course. The four-time scoring champ and former MVP's addition makes for a diabolically talented starting five, which already included 3 All-Stars and 2-time MVP Steph Curry. Rosgold on Woode with KD and the Dubs.
KD, I can't even believe you're here yet. It still feels kind of crazy. Has this transition just been seamless for you, or are there moments where it's surreal or even a little weird?
Yeah, I've had a lot of emotions. You know, and change for anybody is definitely difficult early on, but I'm looking forward to taking that head on and just learning as much as I can and being a part of this great organization.
What are the emotions you're going through right now?
Just I'm used to a routine, and when it changed up, it's just a little different for me. So, but like I said, I'm excited taking on this new challenge, and I can't wait to start.
This is an important time for you with training camp. How do you balance wanting to be yourself, wanting to be assertive, but also not stepping on toes and listening and learning?
Well, I was always raised to be aggressive and be who I am every single day, and so that's all I can do. That's all I can control, and and I try to be the best teammate I can be, man. That's just who I am. That's what I stand on, and I know it'll come in. I'll come in and leave my mark with this team.
You just got to feel it out. I mean, we have a lot of guys that have high IQs on this basketball team. KD being one of them. There's going to be opportunities for both of us, including Clay, Draymond, to be ourselves, do what we've done to put ourselves in this position in our careers, and none of that's going to change. It's just a feeling out process of a new lineup that every team that has changes goes through. So training camp would be important for us to kind of lock in every single day to understand what to expect, where we're going to get our shots, how what play calls we're going to run, and obviously it's going to be used for us to understand what Coach Kerr, how he sees things working out and feeling it out.
Obviously, Durant is the big acquisition in the middle of that incredibly talented starting lineup. One of the challenges for the Warriors is replacing a good chunk of their bench from last year. Guys like Spate's gone. Obviously, Andrew Bogut has gone from the starting lineup as well. Leandro Barbosa no longer part of that picture, but Durant and the way he fits in, that is story number one with this team, obviously. What kinds of issues, he's going to present issues for opponents, what kind of issues will they have to overcome as teammates?
Great issues. I mean, look, you got 4 legit all-stars in your starting lineup. You got arguably one of the top 3 players that just joined your team. And I remember the reason I feel good about Golden State, Pat Riley said something after they won the first championship in Miami. His biggest regret, they didn't add anything that following year. Golden State wins the championship 2 years ago, loses in the finals, and they add Kevin Durant this year. A guy that hadn't won a championship. So even though it may be a little complacency among Steph Curry and some of them other guys who've been to 2 finals back-to-back and won one, you got a guy coming in, Kevin Durant, who's one of the top 3 players in the league, who's hungry for a ring. That's why he joined. So he's going to have a sense of urgency. He's going to be all in, and he's going to elevate those other guys. And then you're talking about the best pure scorer in all of basketball and your team. Are there going to be some challenges for Steve Kerr to mix and match the lineup and get them on the same page? Yes. But that's a good problem to have.
It's interesting because there's almost a talking point developing there because so many of them are being asked about what happens at the end of games. You need a bucket. Who's going to take that shot? And we heard Durant and Steph each say the game will dictate who takes that shot. Is it that simple?
It's not that simple, but I think the way you look at all these guys, the way they play, they're unselfish, and I think Kevin Durant understands he's going to a team where the ball moves around, but I still think it'll be work in progress offensively, but I think they'll figure it out around January, February. I still think no matter what, defensively is going to be their challenge. We always talk about the offense, Brent and Sam and Matt. I still looked at they were elite defensively on my end, watching the way they were able to switch, where they were able to. I love my guy Draymond Green, but they used to play him at the 5 and still was an elite team. To figure out how you can still be on the same page, offensively is pretty easy. If you have guys that have a high basketball IQ and unselfish, I'm going to hit the open man, you're going to get a good shot. Whether go in or not, you want to get a good shot. Defensively, there's a lot of trust and understanding where to be and his instincts and just having guys work together. I think that's the end of what they really going to have a long time to struggle with.
It's interesting with Durant effectively replacing Harrison Barnes in the starting lineup. Doesn't that give them more flexibility in terms of switching with that extra length?
I think it gives them more flexibility there, Matt, and also the ability to rebound the ball and push it up. And Kevin Durant, who we've applauded over the last couple of years about his decision-making and playmaking ability. So you add that to the offensive repertoire of Kevin Durant and the type of weapons that Steve Kerr already has. I just want to throw this out there. Last year, Kevin Durant was the most efficient scorer in the post in the NBA. A lot of people don't look into numbers like that, but in terms of his production out of the post, Kevin Durant was 1 last year, David West was 2. They're both on the Golden State Warriors. This is something that Steve Kerr can now add to what he does already offensively to throw one of those guys down into the post and create even more, dare I say, open looks for Klay Thompson and Steph Curry.
Just what the rest of the league wanted to hear, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if you guys heard this or not, but the two-time defending Western Conference champions made an interesting signing in the offseason.
Who was that, man?
He's a guy. Well, I don't want to give it away.
Don't give it away.
The Warriors coming off an NBA record 73-win season, 34-7 on the road after a 24-0 start, all on their way to losing in 7 in the NBA Finals to the Cleveland Cavaliers. But then the summertime went pretty well with the signing of former MVP and 4-time scoring champ Kevin Durant. And so there is a veritable frenzy on Media Day in Oakland, California, and that's where we find Roz Golden. How different is this Media Day from Warriors Media Days past?
You know what? This is a well-oiled machine now here in Oakland, the Golden State Warriors. This is the team that won a championship, then went 73-9, now has Kevin Durant. It's very organized. It's very clean. There's a lot of media here. I am expecting a circus this season. NBA Finals level attention in the preseason. I've spoken to media members who have actually taken up temporary residence in the Bay Area just to cover their team. They've said goodbye to their families. They're staking out a claim to land here. And, you know, the Warriors media, they've got this really great setup here. It's starting to get crowded. And the Warriors are going to have to handle the pressure that comes with this attention this season.
Yeah, they know what they're doing out there for sure. Kevin Durant has never really been a look-at-me kind of guy. His play has demanded that folks look at him and ask him questions, and he has drawn their attention, obviously. But he arrives with a team that is obviously well-established, having won the West the last 2 years. Well, what do you suppose his approach is in terms of the attention paid to him versus his established teammates?
Well, I think for Kevin Durant, his challenge in training camp is trying to assert himself, trying to be himself, while also listening and trying not to step on toes. The Warriors, the returning Warriors, they're working really hard for him as well. They're trying to include him. I think a real key right now, and I just overheard Coach Kerr speaking about it, is just maintaining the identity of ball movement, playing together as a team. And then it doesn't really matter who has the ball in their hands because it's moving, and then they can kill you once the defense is shifting around. So continuing to have the identity of ball movement is one of the best ways to keep everyone on this team happy and keep everyone getting their shots and touches.
Roz, the question I have entering training camp, is there anybody that will not be able to start training camp because of health-wise, or do they seem like they're all ready to go physically?
I haven't heard about that. What I have heard discussed, though, is managing. It's been 2 back-to-back seasons going all the way to the stretch. This last season to Game 7, you've got 3 players who were in the Olympics, managing rest right now. It's a very hefty training camp roster, so you'll see a lot of different players getting time, and some might get less. Also, this is an important training camp, though, for culture and building and learning each other, not just because of the new roster spots and the players on the court, but also because of new coaching staff. You've got Willie Green, you have Mike Brown. They're trying to learn what their roles are and how they fit in and how they make suggestions and how they relate to players on this Warriors team. The loss of Luke Walton was really huge culturally. He was someone that related to the players, someone they listened to, someone who really worked well with Draymond Green, who there's questions about how he handles his emotions this year. Losing Theo Robertson with Luke Walton to the Lakers, Theo worked hand in hand with Draymond Green, got him fired up before the game, knew how to push his buttons. So this is an important time where you got to be careful about resting people, but also making sure people are engaged, because this is not the same team from last year that entered training camp with the championship-made roster. This is a very new squad that's looking to rebuild identity.
Well, Roz, you're around the Golden State Warriors all year long. 7 players gone from last year's team. A lot of those guys really the pulse of the team, the Bay Area. We know our rabid fan base come to connect with those guys. But it's interesting because we've heard both Bob Myers and Steve Kerr talk about this rest approach coming into this season with what they spent last year in terms of the physical energy. How do you think, and you were a great player, how do you think Steve Kerr is going to navigate the rest portion of that and also establishing the connectivity that these guys are going to need as the season moves on?
You know what? Coach Kerr's really thoughtful. He's really creative. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in training camp as far as team bonding and building. Last year, he got Game of Thrones people and some cartoon makers. I mean, I don't watch enough TV, but basically got them to make a show, a parody for the Warriors. And he went really in depth with inside jokes, and it was just a way to bond. The team's going to be in San Diego together. He's a very thoughtful approach. And again, this is an important time for bonding. And I think the players are really committed to making this work. It has to come from the players as well. And there's a good leadership core returning for the Warriors.
Roz, you're well established there in the Bay Area. I know you won't have any problem with the invasive media that are going to be there today, but protect yourself.
You know what? Traveling with the Warriors last year when they started off 24-0, it was like traveling with the Beatles or Beyonce. Like, it was crazy, and I'm expecting that this year again without the 24-0 start. And you know, also to go back to your point about minutes and resting. There was an interesting conversation brought up just before training camp about staggering minutes, and Coach Kerr said he would certainly consider that. Staggering meaning, you know, sometimes you're playing a game against a team and you're hoping, all right, their star player is going to sit out. Now you can really take advantage, but maybe staggering Steph Curry and Kevin Durant so that at all points of the game, either one of these elite superstars of the league are on the court and the other team's going to have to deal with it. So that is quite the luxury that Coach Kerr has. And one thing is Coach Kerr is a really intelligent head coach, reigning coach of the year. His staff is good. I'm looking forward to seeing how they put together a plan to utilize all of this talent.
It's going to be fascinating, and we appreciate you stopping by. As always, Roz Gold-Unwoody with us from Oakland, California. And obviously, Durant made the headlines when he arrived in Oakland, but there were significant changes beyond KD, including a lot of bench pieces from a group that was third in the NBA in terms of net rating, plus minus off their bench. That is one issue, but obviously the headline here, I'm no dummy as a host, is to start with Durant. I may be a dummy, but I'm not that dumb. To start with Durant. So everyone remembers the big three Heat. They began the year 10-11 and the sky was falling, and what's the deal with this team? What is the adjustment period for this group, and what kinds of things will you be looking for from them during games?
I think, first of all, they're such good guys, high-Q guys, and sometimes being unselfish to a fault. I think Matt, Brent, those guys coming out over trying to have Kevin Durant a part of this team. Kevin Durant not trying to take over everything, overpassing, and I think that chemistry is going to take a while. Obviously, who wouldn't want to watch this team and come together? But I think at the beginning, it's going to take some time. But I think offensively we'll come together. I'm a little worried about this starting lineup group as far as defensively, how they'll be able to play. That's the part that I'm looking for. How does Kevin Durant fit in defensively with these guys? Not saying he's a bad defender. They played a different style of defense in OKC. Offensively, that's the easy part when you're an offensive scorer like Durant. But I think it's more, for me, what they're missing. They've lost a lot of players that make up an entire team. This wasn't a team where Steve Kerr and that coaching staff played 6 guys, 7 guys. They played that entire roster. And I think that's, for me, Brent, that's more what they lost than what they gained. Any day you take a Kevin Durant, but how much did you have to give up to be able to get back to that championship? Because ultimately they're measured by a championship. Right. If they don't get there, people are going to say it's a failure.
And if you're running the team, if you're Bob Myers, that cost-benefit analysis makes perfect sense. Kevin Durant? Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
I'll try to figure out the rest. How does it look to you?
I'm totally on board with what Smitty said. When you have basketball players that are this good, that have a conscience, the first thing they'll do is guys will start deferring. They want everybody to feel good. But for Steve Kerr, and with what it is that he did lose, Matt, it's kind of two stages. First thing for the coaching staff is we have to explore the personalities of these new additions to our team and introduce them to what it is that we do and how it is we do things. And then the second step, and probably the most difficult thing, is once you explore them, is to implore them to be themselves. And that's a very difficult thing to navigate for players who are trying to find their role when you have the two-time MVP and Kevin Durant as the one-time MVP and Draymond Green as one of the most versatile big men in the game. Where do they fit in? They have to do some adjusting too, both Draymond and Klay Thompson. It's not going to be the same role for them, but for the rest of those guys that make up the difference when you're talking about an 82-game season and you had Mo Spates coming in and grabbing 14 points in 6 minutes. That's not part of your offense. When you had Barbosa coming in and running the offense with his speed and producing some winning plays for you, that's not part of the equation. So all of these things will play themselves out. Golden State will have a fantastic season. But I think as an analyst, Smitty and I are most excited about the first month of this season to watch how they navigate that road.
Can't wait. Can't wait for that.
Yes.
And the end of game question. You got so many options. How do you guard that? How do you defend that? I mean, it's kind of a nightmare.